At Vivian's 28th birthday bash, somebody actually gifted her a human being right in front of my face. I wasn't going to just stand there and be the quiet piece of furniture I usually was. No chance. I grabbed a wine glass, smashed it on the floor, and pretty much wrecked the immediate area. Then I went upstairs, packed a bag, and walked out the front door. Everyone whispered that I wouldn't survive 3 days on my own. They were convinced I'd come crawling back on my knees. Vivian didn't care either. She figured, where could an orphan possibly go without the Hawthorne family mansion? But those 3 days turned into weeks, then months, and people actually started wondering if I had died in a ditch somewhere. That was when Vivian finally decided to call me, only to realize I'd disconnected my number a long time ago. Later, there was a specific painting at a famous artist's gallery show that totally threw Vivian off balance. She offered an insane amount of money to buy it. Chloe, the artist, just looked at her with a polite smile and apologized, saying, "I can't sell that one. It's the best portrait I've ever painted of my husband." Let's back up to the night of the party. I was wearing my most expensive tailored suit for Vivian's big 28th. She held onto my arm while we made our grand entrance down the staircase, but the second we hit the bottom step, she let go. She walked off into the crowd, leaving me standing there in the dust. Every pair of eyes in the room followed her, and I was left forgotten in the corner like a coat rack. People kept handing her presents, and she would just wave her hand, telling the house staff to take them away without even looking at them. She was bored. Then a guest brought out a gorgeous young man, and suddenly the entire room shifted its focus to me. I saw the looks: pity, curiosity, straight-up mockery. I'd seen those expressions way too often over the years. For a split second, Vivian actually looked stunned. The guy looked terrifyingly similar to her first love, Liam, who had died years ago. Giving someone a living, breathing man right in front of her husband, Arthur? That took some serious nerve. But then Vivian smirked. The person who gave the gift started flattering her, saying, "Arthur is a generous man. I'm sure he won't mind." It wasn't that I didn't mind. It was that they assumed I didn't have the backbone to mind. I was just the orphan raised by the Hawthorne family charity. How could I possibly stand up to Vivian, the new head of the empire? Vivian twisted her wedding ring around her finger, her eyes dancing with amusement. She said, "If Arthur is okay with it, then sure, take him to the guest wing." Before she could even finish the sentence, I was standing right next to her, staring this guy down. The people who brought him certainly knew Vivian's type. In that moment, I just felt a wave of total exhaustion wash over me. I couldn't keep up this act of being the perfect, submissive husband anymore. I reached out and gently tipped over a massive, intricate champagne tower. The sound was deafening, glass shattering, wine splashing everywhere, creating instant chaos. Someone yelled, "Arthur has lost his mind!" I had completely ruined Vivian's party, but she didn't look concerned. She looked bored. The house manager was already ushering guests out, and the staff would have this cleaned up in an hour. The new guy, Julian, stayed glued to Vivian's side. Quiet and brooding, just like her dead ex used to be. Standing next to him, I probably did look like the crazy one. Vivian played with Julian's fingers, speaking to me casually like we were discussing the weather. "Why are you so angry? If you don't want to see him, I'll just keep him at a different property. Don't worry, I promised your Nana I'd never kick you out of the main house." Even Julian chimed in, trying to sound soothing. "Arthur? Why get so upset? A woman of Vivian's status wouldn't settle for just one man. I admire her, but I'm not trying to take your title." I slid my wedding ring off my finger and set it on the table right in front of Vivian. She raised an eyebrow at me. I said, "Here, you can have your ring back." Vivian picked it up, tossed it into the air, and caught it. The diamond caught the light before falling back into her palm. Then she threw it over her shoulder to the new guy. "Here, take it. A ring worth millions, and Arthur doesn't want it." Vivian stood up, gave a cold, short laugh, and told the house manager, "Teach them some manners. I don't want to see such disrespectful behavior again." She walked a few steps, then stopped and turned around. She pulled her own ring off and tossed it on the ground. It spun on the marble floor before wobbling to a stop right at my shoes. "If the ring isn't wanted, then let's just get rid of them all." She walked off with her entourage trailing behind her. The sound of high-performance car engines revving up outside seemed extra loud in the night air. Mrs. Higgins, the housekeeper, sighed next to me. "Sir, why do you have to make Vivian mad again? You know she has issues with you." I picked up the ring at my feet and dropped it into the nearest trash can. "Go ahead, Mrs. Higgins. You don't need to worry about me anymore." The house manager shook his head and walked away. Alone, I went upstairs, changed out of my stiff suit and into a plain white t-shirt. I grabbed my suitcase and shoved all my clothes from the closet inside. Any other married couple might worry about assets or divorce agreements after a fight like that. But my connection with Vivian was so flimsy, it was literally just that ring. No one would have guessed that the city's most publicized wedding didn't even have a legal marriage certificate. I remembered what Vivian said on our wedding day. "On my household registry, only Liam's name deserves to be next to mine. Arthur, we shouldn't have done this." Yet I still went through with the ceremony with the girl I had loved for 7 years. I thought I could win her heart eventually. In the end, I was just a husband in title only. When I walked out with my suitcase, the whole villa was silent. It felt a lot like the rainy night Nana Hawthorne first brought me home. Back then, a 13-year-old Vivian stood on the stairs looking at me coldly. But 10 minutes later she was heading to the kitchen to bring me a warm glass of milk. I booked a flight, a 6-hour journey followed by a 3-hour drive back to a small southern town. People say when you get old, you want to return to your roots. But honestly, even a homeless guy misses where he came from. Even if there isn't a single relative left alive there. I rented a small house with a yard in town. The local dialect sounded familiar, but strange at the same time. I was too young when I left, and I'd spent so long in the big city that I'd forgotten how to speak it properly. Thankfully, the neighbor next door was also from out of town, having arrived just a bit earlier than me. While buying groceries, I couldn't understand the old woman running the stall, but my neighbor stepped in to translate. The next day, I made some braised pork to thank her for the help. That's when I found out she was a painter named Chloe, here looking for inspiration. She looked like she was fresh out of college, brimming with that specific kind of youthful energy. Being so far away from the toxic atmosphere of the Hawthorne estate, in this simple environment, I suddenly remembered I was only 25. I always felt like I was ancient, weighed down by a lifetime of obligation. I bought some flowers from a street vendor and planted roses all over the little courtyard. There was a small rocking chair next to the flower bed. It was humble, but it fit my taste perfectly. The Hawthorne garden was filled with Liam's favorite magnolia trees, and there was a wildly expensive piano in the glass house. Vivian bought it specifically for him back in the day, and no one was allowed to touch it. Years ago, when Nana wanted to replace those magnolias, Vivian went into a rage. She said if the magnolias were gone, I wouldn't need to come back either. No one brought it up again. Liam and those magnolias became a restricted area in the Hawthorne household. In the afternoon, there was a knock on my courtyard door. Chloe was standing there, wearing a hoodie with a backpack and a bright smile. "I'm planning to paint tomorrow's sunrise up in the mountains. Want to come along for some fresh air?" She pointed toward the mountain range behind us. "I know it's kind of a tourist trap, but the view is real." I was tempted. Don't worry, I camp a lot. It's totally safe, and I know what I'm doing. Her enthusiasm was contagious, so I nodded. Chloe was, as she claimed, experienced. She ran back to her place and grabbed another bag. She was carrying all the camping gear herself along with her painting supplies. I tried to take some of the weight, but she refused firmly. Don't underestimate me. Carrying this is a piece of cake. On the hike up the mountain, we talked about our pasts and futures. My story seemed incredibly dull. It always centered around the Hawthorne family, around Vivian. And in the end, I just became a placeholder gentleman for a rich dynasty. But Chloe was different. She was full of fresh stories and wild dreams. Life is an experience, she said. My dream right now is to become a famous painter. You gotta chase your dreams, right? She whispered with a grin. I actually ran away from home. If you wake up one day and the house next door is empty, maybe I got caught and dragged back. I looked at her and smiled. Didn't expect us both to be fugitives. Yet she had people who loved her enough to drag her back. If I vanished, Vivian might actually throw a party. We reached the summit just in time. Time for sunset. The warm, golden light gave everything a surreal, movie-like quality. I gazed at the small town below, enveloped in that golden glow, quiet and serene. Chloe was already busy setting up the tent. I asked her if she was going to paint the sunset. I love sunrises more, she said. Every day is a new beginning full of possibilities. Watching her work while sitting on the little folding stool she brought, her words about a new beginning kept replaying in my head. Leaving the Hawthorns was the bravest thing I'd done in years. Yet, I felt like a coward. Running to this remote town, hiding in a small courtyard. I never really thought about the future. Should I spend my life in that little garden? I was just 25. The future should hold infinite possibilities. Chloe finished the tent, handed me some food and water, and sprawled out on a mat beside me. Want to try looking at the stars like this? It was different. At the Hawthorne estate, I was always told what to do. The staff would say, "Sir, this isn't appropriate for you." Staring at stars like this never even crossed my mind. But Chloe didn't give me a chance to overthink it. She pulled me down from the stool onto the mat. Quick, lie down. And I did. Suddenly, the stars seemed close enough to touch. Lying there with Chloe, staring at the vast sky, we talked about everything. I made a decision in my heart. Be brave and step out. Running away doesn't solve anything. I should meet new people, see the world, and make Vivian's presence in my life insignificant. I fell asleep feeling safer than I had in years, despite just being in a simple tent. In the morning, feeling a bit fuzzy-headed, I stepped out of the tent. Chloe was already set up at her easel, looking serious. The rising sun gently hit my skin. It actually felt like a new beginning. I gazed at the horizon where the sun was coming up. "Stay still!" Chloe's voice startled me, and I froze, watching her from the corner of my eye. It seemed like she was using me as a model. After she finished, I stretched my sore neck. Being a model was harder than it looked. "Let me help you. Thanks for modeling," Chloe said. Her hands offered a soothing massage on my shoulders, and I closed my eyes, enjoying it. On the hike down, she talked about her inspiration. I looked at the painting. It was nice, but I couldn't tell much else about art. Back home, she disappeared into her place. I turned on the TV, and seeing Vivian's face suddenly appear made me jump. I almost changed the channel. I was grateful I made that decision last night. Vivian was on TV and online a lot. I couldn't keep avoiding it forever. In the interview, she looked exactly the same. When the reporter asked about the rumors regarding her marriage, she looked indifferent. My husband is just throwing a tantrum. He'll be back after he cools off. Everyone envied me, the orphan raised by the grandmother, lucky enough to marry the heiress. But only those inside the house knew the truth. Ignored by everyone, resented by Vivian, having a title, but feeling like a rootless weed. Every year when the magnolias bloomed, Vivian would have the staff cut the flowers and fill the house with them. The piano in the glass conservatory was dusted daily. Liam was gone, but Vivian constantly reminded me of his presence. I heard you and Arthur had a fight because of your new assistant, Julian, that you've been keeping close lately? The reporter pressed. Vivian frowned impatiently, a habit of hers, reaching for a wedding ring that was no longer there. She realized Arthur was actually stubborn enough to return her ring this time, and even dared to sneak away. She remembered the call from the house manager that day, panicking because Arthur had disappeared. When she got home, she found Arthur's half of the closet emptied. Only her skirts hung there, looking lonely. His running away was just a ploy, forcing her to get rid of that man who resembled Liam. She knew he treasured Liam's things the most, let alone someone who looked like him. But so what? With Nana gone, he had no family, relying only on her. As a kid, he'd hide alone when he was upset. Nana used to spoil him, but Vivian didn't have that patience anymore. Once he'd had enough hardship outside, he'd realize how good he had it and come back. So she told the staff, "An orphan like him has nowhere else but here. Don't bother looking. Just let me know when he's back." Under Vivian's impatience, the host quickly shifted the topic from relationships to business. Talking about work, Vivian visibly relaxed. Arthur seemed to be a topic that made her frown every time. I poured myself a glass of ice water and started working on my resume. This little town mostly had senior folks left. It was great for retirement, but lacked job opportunities. To work, I had to step out. I kept writing until evening, finally stretching and thinking about dinner. A simple meal. Sitting at the table, I wondered if Chloe next door had finished her work. When she painted, did she lose track of time and meals like Vivian did? Back when Nana was alive, Vivian had stomachaches a few times from skipping meals. So whenever I could, I'd take food to her office. Initially, her secretary would block me out for hours, but she got used to it, letting me interrupt for a meal before resuming. I sighed, grabbed my coat, and knocked on Chloe's gate. No response. Just when I was about to leave, the door opened. Seeing me, Chloe's irritated face broke into a grin. "I was painting you. And look, here you are." Chloe held a brush, her clothes smeared with paint, some on her face too, looking a bit messy. But her beaming smile made the paint marks look charming, adding vitality to her. "You haven't eaten, right? Want to join me for dinner?" Hearing my invite, Chloe clutched her stomach dramatically. "Oh, I'm starving. You're so sweet. Let me put down the brush. I'm in the..." Following days, Chloe and I seemed to reach an unspoken agreement. She'd come over for meals, then help clean up, even taking care of the garden. I wished I had a sister like her. She'd be wonderful. I sent some resumes to a few companies and got interview invites. On the day I decided to leave, I got up early to say goodbye to Chloe. Opening the door, I saw several black sedans parked in front of Chloe's yard, guarded by men in suits who looked like professional security. I hesitated for a few minutes before approaching, and one guard tried to stop me. "Don't touch him!" Chloe emerged from the yard, the sunny cheer gone, replaced by a collected calm. She grabbed my hand, pulling me inside and closing the door firmly behind us. "Don't come in," she ordered the men. The bodyguards exchanged glances, but eventually nodded. "Coming for dinner?" Without the guards watching, Chloe seemed back to her cheerful self. "No, I came to say goodbye." Chloe's voice raised a few octaves. "Where are you going?" I told her about sending out resumes and landing interviews. Despite this place being great, you said that day on the hill that every day is a fresh start full of possibilities. I want a new beginning for myself, without regrets. So, have you let that person go? I was taken aback, looking at her. Chloe blinked. Don't underestimate the eyes of an artist. Hearing it aloud made me a bit embarrassed. Yeah, I guess I have. So where are you going to work? The capital city. I considered moving farther from Vivian, but since Nana took me in, I've lived in the capital. It's where I grew up, studied, and made friends. Why should I let Vivian force me to adapt to a new city? Then I'm coming with you. My family is there now. Unexpectedly, I hitched a ride with Chloe back to the capital. The thought of facing Vivian again paled against Chloe's enthusiastic plans. Back in the city, life seemed to fall into place. I got the job and was set to start. Next week, I rented an apartment near the office. Chloe, who had disappeared for 2 days, suddenly reappeared as my neighbor. Taking out the trash, I saw movers bringing furniture into the unit next door. A quick glance spotted tall Chloe inside, directing the placement. How'd you end up here? I was planning to surprise you, but you found out anyway. Chloe casually walked over and took the trash bag from my hands. I've been missing your cooking, so I came back to be your neighbor and mooch some meals. Her appearance was quite a nice surprise, actually. Living in a strange place, having her as a neighbor added a sense of security. All right, I'll cook a few dishes later to celebrate your move. For convenience, we decided to have hot pot at home. The spicy broth was bubbling away, and Chloe picked up some freshly cooked meat and put it in my bowl. Just one bite had me grabbing the drink next to me, gulping it down to cool off. You can't handle spicy food, can you? I thought. You loved hot pot. It's fine. Maybe I just haven't had it in a while and I'm not used to it. I couldn't even remember the last time I had hot pot. I used to love it. When Nana was around, she'd join me. She had the mild broth. I had spicy. Once, Vivian worked late, and the food I brought her had gone cold. It started to snow lightly, and I suggested we go out to eat. We went for hot pot. Vivian always preferred mild flavors, so I ordered a split pot. But she frowned the whole time. On the way home, she said, "Let's not do that again. It leaves you smelling like spices." I hadn't had spicy hot pot since. If you don't eat something for a long time, even your taste buds forget it. But soon enough, I was sweating, enjoying the nostalgia. After dinner, Chloe cleaned up the table, tidied the kitchen, and opened the windows for fresh air. She took out the trash before leaving. Life back in the capital turned out more peaceful than I expected. No media buzz about my absence, and the Hawthorns had no one looking for me. I've always been someone the world doesn't notice, but the media was curious about Vivian's assistant, Julian, who was always with her. I scrolled through the paparazzi photos with a sense of irony. Did Vivian really love Liam that much? In the pics, Vivian let this guy adjust her collar, watched out for her when getting in the car. When it rained, he held the umbrella for them, keeping it more on his side to protect himself. Can love shift so easily just because of a similar face? Vivian kept a tight lid on info about Liam. No photos ever leaked. People were guessing if I'd been totally discarded by Vivian. If I were still at the mansion, maybe I'd be waiting for a wife who doesn't come home. But now I was busy with plans and meetings. Busy. Chloe, I've told you, stop cuddling me like a kid. I pushed the head resting on my shoulder away. Chloe just pushed my laptop away and said, "I'm a beautiful woman right here. Why are you zoning? Out on some older chick?" It was the first time I'd heard Vivian called an older woman. I couldn't help but laugh at the thought of Vivian's face hearing this. After I finished laughing, I saw Chloe had a serious look. "Is she the one who broke your heart? The Hawthorne Group's Vivian? I know her. I gave her a surprised look. I didn't recall seeing Chloe at the Hawthorne events. Mom used to have me call her Auntie. I couldn't help it. I clutched my stomach, laughing and falling onto the couch. She's only 4 years older than you. Calling her Auntie is a stretch. Chloe pinched my cheek. She looks old for her age. Vivian got involved with the family business young, always more mature than her peers. It's not wrong to say that. So you're the missing Arthur from the Hawthorne house? Chloe's face was suddenly too close. I realized I'd somehow ended up resting on her lap while laughing. I wanted to push her away and sit up, but she wasn't budging this time, insisting I answer her. Yeah. So am I your hidden girlfriend now? Chloe cracked up at her own joke. I gave her a playful swat. Don't say that. Plus, I've left the Hawthorns and returned the ring. I can get a lawyer. You can file for divorce tomorrow. Don't need to. We never had a marriage certificate. I gave a bitter smile. Without a certificate, there's no need for divorce. The only tie we had was that ring. Talking about marriage, I guessed I was Arthur for so long that Vivian even forgot we never really had the paperwork done. Good. Get one with me then. Staring at the fresh marriage certificate in my hands, I was in a daze. Years ago, I thought it'd be Vivian's face next to mine on this document. Never thought the bride wouldn't be her. Last night, after Chloe sweet-talked me, I agreed to a fake marriage to keep her family off her back. Chloe snatched the certificate from my hands. I'll show this to my folks first. My mom thinks I'm pulling a fast one on her. This marriage felt unreal. 3 years ago, a grand wedding had ceremony but no legal docs. All show, fake happiness for outsiders. Now we got the paperwork, no ceremony. But I felt content since there were no expectations, no disappointments. Chloe came back with good news after showing her family the certificate. My parents agreed to let me hold an art exhibit. This work is my best so far. A month later, Chloe's exhibit was a success. That day I had to work late, so it was almost 8 when I got off. Rushing to the gallery, I thought I saw someone who looked like Vivian. I shook my head. Probably just someone with a similar build. Inside, many of the paintings were familiar. A bunch of guys walked by me, all excited with their sketchbooks in hand. Hurry, hurry, Chloe is up ahead. We gotta get her autograph this time. One of them said, I heard this is her last art show. If we miss it, we might never get her signature. I followed their gaze and spotted Chloe surrounded by a crowd. She was patiently signing for people with her head lowered. I thought this was her first art show. How could it be the last one? I glanced around and saw the bio about Chloe near the entrance. Turns out she was already a well-known artist, with her previous works toured nationwide and sold for sky-high prices. I suddenly felt hesitant to approach her. The Chloe described there didn't quite match the sweet girl I used to know. I quietly left. On my way out, I saw Vivian on the phone by the roadside, looking frustrated. Apparently, I wasn't mistaken before. Vivian kept dialing a number she never used to call. She knew she'd only hear that mechanical voice saying Arthur's number was disconnected. But she realized she had no one else to contact to find him. Thinking of the face I just saw at the art show, a hint of unease flashed in my mind. The thing she was most grateful for about Arthur was his background. No family, seemingly few friends, all in all, no ties. Only she and the Hawthorne family could be there for him. That's why she always thought, even in death, Arthur wouldn't actually leave. The house manager mentioned the disconnected number once, but she didn't care. Unless he died out there, he'd come back at some point. The manager was shocked, but she scoffed. How could he leave? If something really happened, the police would have contacted his wife by now. Yet months passed, and Arthur never showed up. When she saw that painting at the show, Her heart raced. The portrait looked so much like Arthur, but also not. The man in the painting had eyes more vibrant than the rising sun, too bright to look directly at. Arthur wasn't like that. He was more like a still pond, never making waves. Even statues have a bit of temper, but Arthur was soft, like water. Poke him a little and you wouldn't even squeeze out a word of anger. He'd just hide away if bullied. She once saw him crying alone near the glass greenhouse. At the sound of her footsteps, he'd dart, away like a frightened kitten. She couldn't stand his lack of backbone. Despite being her husband, he'd only put on a show outside, reverting to his scared self back home. She wanted to buy that painting for him to hang up in his room, hoping exposure would change him. Chloe said, "It's the best portrait I've done of my husband. Sorry, can't part with it." Hearing that, Vivian felt oddly relieved. The man in the painting wasn't Arthur, but as soon as she left the show, she was desperately eager to contact Arthur. It had been too long. A little fight should end by now. Yet the endless mechanical tones made her impatient. She turned to her bodyguard. "Find him and bring him back." When the Hawthorne bodyguards knocked on the door, Chloe was setting the table in the dining room. As soon as the door opened, the guards rushed in until she stopped them. "Who are you looking for?" Their eyes landed on me holding a spatula. "Sir, Vivian wants us to bring you back." Hearing that title after so long felt surreal, like a blast from the past. "What are you talking about? He's my husband." Chloe shoved at them, and they exchanged looks. One of them called Vivian. "Vivian, he seems to be married." Vivian was there sooner than I thought. In just a few minutes, she stood at the door, furious. The bodyguard stepped aside and Vivian tried to push past Chloe. "Get her off," she barked at the guards. "Vivian, you barged into my home trying to take my husband. That doesn't seem right," Chloe said. Vivian finally looked at Chloe directly. "So the man in your painting is my husband? Shouldn't I demand an explanation?" "Explanation? We're legally married. He's my rightful husband." Vivian sneered, locking eyes with me. "Arthur, what's this? You went and got married without telling me. Come back now and I'll forget this ever happened." She stretched her hand toward me. Before, every time she reached out like that, I'd hold her hand without hesitation. But this time, I didn't move. "Vivian, I already returned the ring. We're done." "Done? After all the Hawthorns did for you, you think you can just say we're done?" Vivian's eyes turned red. Maggie didn't notice her rushing in and grabbed my hand like she might break my wrist. "Go divorce her now. Isn't marriage what you want? Divorce her, and we'll get married." I slapped Vivian across the face. Everything went still. It seemed like forever before Vivian understood what I'd just done. "Arthur, are you out of your mind?" "I've left the Hawthorns. I don't want that marriage certificate anymore. You can take whoever you want home, Julian or the kid he had with his ex. It'd be better if we both moved on." "Why should I let you go? You're someone my family raised. If you're gonna die, you should die with the Hawthorns." Vivian suddenly scooped me up, trying to physically drag me. But as she reached the door, she was stopped by a bodyguard coming out of the elevator. "Vivian, if you dare take him away today, I'll charge you with kidnapping. You don't think I can't even protect my own husband, do you?" I was pretty shaken up. I never imagined this scene would play out. I thought if I left, Vivian would feel relieved. I figured if I suggested we part ways, she'd be glad. Who's she putting on this act for now? No idea who threw the first punch, but suddenly chaos erupted. Chloe stood in front of me, calmly directing her family's guards, creating a standoff with Vivian's men. Luckily, Chloe had the upper hand. "Vivian, we're living in a society with laws. This isn't the sort of thing you should be doing. You might want to avoid it in the future." I tugged on her sleeve, worried Vivian might retaliate later. Vivian had never looked so beaten down in her life. Her bodyguards weren't looking too good either. "Take her home and don't come looking for me again." I pulled Chloe back into our place. She turned to closely inspect my face. "Honey, she didn't hurt you, did she? Were you scared?" I shook my head. "I'm fine. Don't call me that. We're just in a fake marriage." As soon as I said that, she leaned in and kissed me. "That works even better than medicine. When Vivian was here, you didn't mind me calling you husband." I handed her a glass of water. "You said we'd just get a marriage certificate, not an actual marriage." Chloe grinned triumphantly. "I just wanted a legal title so that woman couldn't take you." "That's marriage fraud." "Yeah, I traded going back to the family company for my marital freedom. If it's fraud, then I've given my whole life to it. If you divorce me, I'll be husbandless and stuck working forever. How tragic." I finally got why she said her last art show was the end. I poked her forehead. "Are you silly? Then don't leave me. At least then my latter years can be painfully blissful." I nodded, and Chloe pushed her luck. "Honey, can I kiss you openly now?" Before I could answer, her kiss landed. Things got out of hand. Chloe acted like a kid, finally getting candy. By the time I wanted to push her away, I was like melted butter. "Chloe, don't worry. I'll be gentle." In a daze, I finally got what Chloe meant by saying she's good with endurance. Chloe moved us to a new place. She said it was to keep Vivian from bothering us. The new spot was peaceful for a while, until Chloe took me to pick wedding outfits. I had no idea about the wedding plans. "I've been planning since the day we got the certificate. I wanted you to be my most handsome groom," she said. She envisioned it while painting that picture. Chloe handled almost everything for the wedding. I just got pulled by her mom for a few opinions here and there. We ran into Vivian in the hotel garden while choosing a venue. I wanted to walk the other way, but she spotted me first. "Arthur, please come back. I'll take care of you like Nana said for the rest of my life. The Hawthorne estate is where you grew up. Do you not want me or our home anymore?" How I pulled my hand away from hers. "All these years at the estate, you never treated me like family. I've got a new family now. All I hope is that you won't bother me in the future." Chloe's parents really liked me, especially after they found out my parents passed away early and I had no other family. Chloe's mom held my hand with such empathy, saying she would be my mom from now on. Chloe gave me a home that I truly love. It's a home I can really fit into. In the Hawthorne family, my only relative was Nana. Now that she's gone, there's nothing left for me there. I saw Chloe come out, waved to her, and ran over. She helped tighten my coat and spoke with the hotel manager about some details. Vivian stood there, her eyes following my back as I left. But that back never turned around. Vivian's epilogue. I prided myself on never misreading people after all these years in business. But I never really understood Arthur, the person closest to me. I thought he had no one and could be easily controlled. But he went out once and suddenly grew a backbone. Nana insisted we get married back then. I agreed verbally, but it was just a ceremony for her sake. I didn't register it officially, and he held back, not even complaining to Nana. I found out early on that I couldn't have kids. Nana feared my status in the company would be shaky, so she hurriedly pushed Arthur to marry me, claiming publicly that he needed treatment. I planted Liam's favorite magnolia right in front of him, watching his face go pale, finally knowing what he cared about. So when the man Julian, who looked like Liam, showed up, I agreed without hesitation. Sure enough, Arthur's face was ugly, but I never expected him to lose his temper and throw away our wedding ring. I always thought he was just a runaway kid, never realizing he'd grown up when I wasn't looking. I wasn't his only support anymore. He had a job, new friends, and even got married. I waited downstairs for the bodyguards to bring him back, only to hear from them that he had married. I nearly dropped my phone. He said he wanted to settle things with me, as if he wanted to cut ties for good. I got so upset that I got physical, only for that Chloe girl to stop me. I remember disliking her since she was a kid. I'm only a few years older than her, yet she called me auntie. She's grown up now, and even more annoying. But Arthur looked at her with nothing but trust. He might not even realize it, but his eyes are full of her, while they're full of caution when he looks at me. Suddenly, I felt like I've lost something that I might never get back. I got their wedding invitation, and the smiles in the photo almost blinded me. We had a grand wedding once too, but I couldn't even be bothered to take a photo with him. I left everything for the house manager to handle, staying on the sidelines like a guest. He must have been disappointed about it, right? I got so used to him being around, taking his efforts for granted, always thinking he'd be there. But now I realize some people, once lost, will never belong to me again. He's left the Hawthorns, and I am left in the Hawthorne house forever.